Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome to our XTIVIA live session, 10 Essential Steps for Successful CRM Implementation, presented by Mike Ahrenhoersterbaeumer. This live session is the second part in our series on the CRM journey. My name is Alex Killian, and I'm the video editor and digital media specialist here on XTIVIA's marketing team. Before we get started here, a little bit about our company. XTIVIA started in 1992, and since then we've grown to more than 325 employees worldwide. And we've established a reputation as a company delivering cutting-edge IT solutions and technology support for our clients' very specific requirements. We've got offices in Colorado, Missouri, New Jersey, New York, Texas, and Virginia. We have over 100 combined years of CRM consulting, implementation, and training experience. And we've performed over 300 implementations impacting thousands of users. So if you have any questions come up during this live session, please feel free to submit them in the Q&A section or comment on our YouTube live stream, and we'll do our best to get those answered at the end of the session. Today, we will be hearing from Mike Ahrenhoersterbaeumer, our CRM sales and account executive. Mike has worked in the CRM practice at XTIVIA for 7 years now, and he has vast experience with many of the major CRM platforms. Mike greatly enjoys helping companies find the right CRM solution and seeing how it benefits their organization over time. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Mike.
Thanks, Alex. And yes, appreciate the time, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. So as Alex said, my name is Mike Ahrenhoersterbaeumer. I've been with XTIVIA for 7 years now and really focusing on the CRM space. So to really get started again, so one of the things you may ask yourselves is really, why CRM systems, especially if your company does not have one at this time. And CRM systems can really do numerous amounts of things for your organization, but this is one quote that I've always found very helpful and very insightful. Customer relationship management, or CRM, really helps businesses gain an insight into the behavior of their customers and allows them to modify their business operations to ensure that their customers are served in the very best way possible. So that's just a little kind of snippet on what CRM systems can do, why they can do them, and now we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty of the implementation side of things. But as Alex said, this is really kind of part 2 on our series covering the CRM journey. So just to recap, for those of you that may have joined us when we did our initial live session on the CRM journey, which was considerations when choosing a new CRM solution. This is just kind of a quick recap, right? Some of the things that we covered and what you'll see when we get into, the 10 essential steps for implementation itself. There is a bit of overlap in some of these areas, right? So, first off, when choosing a CRM, understanding why you're even implementing the CRM solution, making sure you've established a budget and ROI guidelines to make sure you're seeing success with this new platform, knowing and understanding the technology that you're moving forward with, how to get your team to use it, and really what to do next after you've accomplished those 4 bullet points ahead. But if you joined us at that time, we really appreciate it and glad you could join us again. If you did miss it, you'll see that there's a link right here. You can actually go into our YouTube channel and check out the first CRM live session at any moment in time. It's up there. But let's get into today's session, right? So what we're doing is with the CRM journey is trying to really kind of take you through most every step of the process from the very beginning, like I said, of choosing your CRM all the way through to, after you're even on the platform and continuing to grow it and continuing to help it evolve throughout your organization. So today's piece of the journey is really some of the essential steps for a CRM implementation, right? So really step 1, which again, we discussed this on the last live session, is making sure you've determined the budget, right? So understanding what this is going to take to make sure that you're doing it the right way. So making sure you've allocated the necessary budgeting resources, to adopt the CRM system is going to create a strong foundation for this platform moving forward. It'll make it easier on your sales teams. It'll improve your internal communications, observe market trends, help you pursue more leads, and so on and so forth. But making sure that you understand what this is going to take from a financial perspective and that you have that in place to do it right is critical in any CRM implementation. Step 2, ensuring that you have high-level corporate sponsorship, right? So we really found that if you don't have that high-level corporate sponsorship, then it's tough for a CRM implementation to really work. If you have that corporate sponsorship, that C-level adoption, it really drives the CRM acceptance plan, throughout the entire organization. It ensures that you're going to get a higher return on your investment. It ensures that your team's going to adequately, accept the system and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, with this new CRM. Everything's going in that's supposed to. It's really helping them drive their behaviors, automate processes, allow you to report on that data. If you have that, drive coming down from the corporate level up above, it's going to flow through the rest of the organization. So ensuring that you have that high level sponsorship as you get into the CRM implementation. Creating an internal CRM team. So this is very critical. And an internal CRM team, these are going to be specialists that'll help you, plan out your CRM strategy. They're going to help during the implementation. They're going to help after the fact and provide maybe ongoing support for your team members as it's needed. But the CRM team can be people from different departments, different levels. So it's typically going to be somebody that maybe is a C level, is in the management level. You might have someone from the IT perspective that can, provide their technical expertise. If you're, really implementing this from a sales perspective or a marketing perspective, customer support, CRM can do all of those for you. But let's take the sales perspective. If you're implementing it for the sales team, ensuring that you have a sales manager involved, ensuring that you have a sales representative involved, having these people there to be able to provide their insight, their feedback, their current pains, what they would like to see from a system, a new system, is really going to help, drive this implementation to be successful and make sure that it meets all of your business needs. Step 4, so make sure that, and again, like I said before, some of these is a bit of overlap from the previous session, but it is very important when we're talking about the actual implementation itself. Determine your goals and objectives. So again, why are you even doing this? What is the driver that is making you, want to pursue putting in a CRM CRM platform in place? The goals and objectives for a CRM solution are, there's endless options. It could be all different types of things. You want to drive more sales. You want to make sure that you're, taking care of your customers, but whatever it may be, there's all different types of options. But making sure that you understand what these goals and objectives are really going to make sure that you then, when you are implementing the system, that you're doing it right and that you're doing it to make sure that it does meet your business needs to help you drive towards your business goals and objectives of this CRM solution. Step 5, making sure you've identified any potential issues. So again, issues can be a bunch of different things. It could be something on the IT side. It could be something in the architecture side. It could just be timing issues, resource issues, right? CRM implementation takes a lot of people. And if you don't have the resources that are, particularly ready at that moment in time or available, it could slow down the implementation time frame, right? So making sure that you've identified any potential issues as early as possible will help you throughout the process and making sure that you can get past those, issues as quickly as possible and make sure you're reaching your goals, in a timely manner. So just identifying those potential issues and getting those out of the way as early as possible. Potentially phase the project out. So this, it isn't for everybody, but it is typically something that we always recommend, right? And that's implementing a phased out approach when you are looking at implementing a CRM solution, right? When you're putting in a CRM, you may have a lot of goals that you want to accomplish by this, right? You want to help the sales team. You want to drive more sales. You want to help you want to have marketing build more leads to get into your pipeline for you. You want to improve on your customer support. All these different things may be things that you want to do within the CRM. Maybe you want to do an integration to your back end system. That can be a lot, right? So by phasing the project out, it makes it a little bit easier for everyone, not only from a cost perspective, financial perspective, but, an organizational disruption, technical, absorption, change management. All of these things come into play when you're looking to do a large CRM implementation. So by doing it in almost a phased approach, it really can make it a more seamless transition and make it easier on everyone involved, both internally and externally. Step 7, really, all of these are important, but this is one of the most important, I would say. Train your teams, right? Whenever you're implementing a new software, a new platform, and this isn't just for CRM, it really can be anything. You need to make sure that your team has an understanding on how they're using it or how to use it. Why are they using it? What's the point of putting this in? And making sure that they're trained on what they will be doing within the system, right? CRM solutions can do a number of different things for you. They have all different types of really cool functionality, and you can show them that, but really the training needs to be tailored towards your use cases, your business needs, to make sure that the team has an understanding on, again, why they're doing this and how they're doing this. So as you go live on the system, they know where to go, they know how to search records, they know how to create new records, they know how to associate things, build reports that are important to them, right? So training is very, very important. We typically, recommend 3 different types of training, 2 to 3 different types of training, I would say, just depending on how large your user base is. But that end user training, again, let's take a sales implementation, for instance. That end user training is going to be for, your sales reps, your sales managers. Those are the people that are going to be in the system day in, day out, creating new leads, converting leads into business opportunities, closing those business opportunities, calling on clients, keeping in touch with those individuals. So training the end users on the day in, day out on how I maneuver around the system, how I look up records, how I can build groups, how I can build reports, how they will utilize the system and why and how it's going to help them moving forward. But also, if you have a larger user base, we always like to do kind of what we call super user training. It's kind of a hybrid between the end user and the administrative training. That super user might be for someone, let's say you have different groups. You have a sales group that's using it. You have a marketing group that's going to be using it, and a customer support group. You might do super user for one person within each of those groups and train them on a little bit more of the ins and outs of the system. Train them on building more complex reports. They'll have the end user training, but they'll also have this super user training so that each, team has someone within their group that they can turn to if they have questions on something, or if they just want a better understanding on how to do something, or if they want this complex report. The people in that soup that have had that super user training are really be able to help them and give them someone to turn to get them to where they need to go. And then finally, administrative training. So the most successful CRM implementations are where teams have someone internally that has been trained on some of the administrative features of the database. So, you add a new user. How do I onboard those users? How do I change my role security? How do I add new fields if somebody requests they want a new field? How do I build out new processes, new workflows? How do I import data in? Having someone internally that can do those things for you becomes very beneficial, and that they really become kind of the owner of the system. So again, even somebody that those super users can turn to help make some small changes to the system if it needs to be done. And by having that in there, 1, it's always more successful that way, but 2, it can help you save some costs in the long run instead of having to come pay an outside firm to make any of these small, subtle changes. When you have somebody in-house that's knowledgeable enough to be able to do those things for you, it really helps you out in the long run. Step 8, measuring the impact. So what you need to do is, obviously you're putting an investment to this, both from a time, a resource, financial perspective. So how are you going to measure the impact? So you really want to build in certain success measures to be able to track the level of success, from this implementation, right? So again, the measuring the impact can be done in a bunch of different ways, right? It's all going to be dependent on what you're looking to get out of the system. Why are you even doing this, right? So, they can be based on, the usage within your company, right? The sales statistics since the day of go live, right? All different types of things. But these various ways of measuring the impact of the solution can really help you kind of, moving forward into the future and find certain areas where maybe you are still struggling, with the process process and with the implementation. So kind of piggybacking off of that, step 9 is really measuring the performance, right? So again, make sure to measure the results, after the implementation has taken effect and you've been live on the system for a while. So if one of your things that you're looking to do is maybe you have an inside sales team, you want to track the number of calls that they are making, right? The number of calls that they're making versus the number of sales closed, whatever it might be, sales, opportunities created versus closed won, right? All of these, measuring the performance within the system, can really help you moving forward. So, these analytics tools, these metrics, they can be really, really helpful in measuring not only past performance, obviously current performance, but also help you measure out and test, some of those future indicators. But most of these CRM platforms have a robust reporting engine that'll allow you to build in all these different types of performance metrics to really drive home and help you get a lot out of the system to make sure, that the performance is there, that the people are using it as they're supposed to be, and that they're obviously it's having a positive impact in their daily business lives. So, and finally, step 10, establish a support plan, right? So you want to have this figured out, during the implementation, but this really is almost, more for after go live, when you are live on the system. Implementing a new CRM platform, it's a big venture, right? It's a big change, especially for an organization that maybe hasn't had a CRM before. They're used to the spreadsheets, right? They're used to just using Outlook. This is a big change. It's going to make their lives easier. It really is. It's going to make them more successful. But sometimes, you have some people that are going to try and fight against that, right? You need to ensure that you have an adequate support plan moving forward. In order for your CRM team to have success, you need to be able to give them people that they can turn to for questions, for concerns. If they run into an issue, how do I resolve that issue? You need to be able to give them access to the supporting tools moving forward, right? Whether it's a help desk, whether it's an online portal, whether it's an email that they can reach out to a bunch of different individuals. Maybe they can just pick up the phone and call. The support plan really should be twofold. You should have people internally, and this again can kind of come back to something we referenced earlier in the training, which is really maybe those super users, those administrators, having people internally that can provide support towards your team as they're getting comfortable in the system, as they run into an issue, is very beneficial. But then it also does help too. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of companies, including XTIVIA, we are an implementation partner, right? We always offer ongoing support. We find that it's a must. So not only do you have internal support from your team, but you also have that external support from the team that came in, learned your business requirements, understand your business needs, what your goals and objectives were, and architected and built out a CRM platform based around those. So we know exactly how it's supposed to work and why you're doing it. So being able to have that outside, even more advanced technical support from your implementation partner is very vital as well. Okay. So there's a bunch of other things that obviously do go into, CRM implementations, right? It's a big project a lot of times. But these are really the 10 essential steps that we find that lead to the most successful implementations. So just to recap, guys, just kind of, again, really running through these really quick, those 10 essential steps. Make sure you've determined and established a budget for this project, both from a software perspective, potentially a hardware perspective, and as well, obviously, the implementation services. Ensure you have high-level corporate sponsorship. Create an internal CRM team that can help drive this project through and even after go live. Understand and determine what are your goals and business objectives of implementing this solution. Identify, try to get ahead of any potential issues that you may find that you may run into, whether they're technical, resource, timing, whatever they might be. Identifying and getting out ahead of those potential issues is key. You may want to look at phasing the project out, just to make it a little bit more seamless and not throwing as much at your team as possible in one, full swoop. Again, train. Make sure your teams are trained on how they are going to be utilizing this platform moving forward. Doesn't matter which CRM you're going with, which one you've chosen, they need to have the proper training to make sure that they know why they're doing it, how they're doing it, and the benefits that they're going to get out of doing it. Making sure you measure the impact, have some of those metrics put in place, making sure you have metrics put in place to measure the actual performance of it. So what are we getting out of it, right? Are we actually utilizing it to our full advantage? And then step 10, make sure that you have established a proper support plan, right? And like I just said, that support should be both internally and externally as well to really get the most success out of the system and make sure that your user base has the right people that they can turn to if they ever have any questions, concerns, or run into any issues. So with that, I really appreciate everyone's time. I would like to open it up for questions.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. Looks like we got a few questions coming in here. First off, who might you include on an internal CRM team?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. And I kind of referenced this a little bit earlier. But the one thing I would say, you should always have certain people in there, but then depending on why and how you're implementing and who you're implementing this for, it could differ on a couple people. So like I said, you should have somebody from that corporate level, potentially that C level involved. And he or she does not have to be maybe involved in the day-to-day, but you got to have that sponsorship from someone on there, right? To make sure that everything is being driven home and accomplished as it's supposed to. Really need to have somebody from management. So again, I'm going to just kind of take the example of, this is a sales implementation, but it works the same way if you're doing this for customer support, if you're doing this for operations, if you're doing this for marketing, right? So if you're doing this from sales, making sure that maybe you have the vice president of sales or your sales manager as part of that internal team, as well as a sales representative, right? Because when you do that, you get different perspectives on what the CRM should do and how it should do it. You get different perspectives on some of the issues that those people are currently facing today, and how can we take that and, resolve that by putting in a CRM solution. So not only having somebody from the management side, but also an actual, sales representative or a marketing representative or a customer support representative, whichever you might be doing. And then another one that is very helpful is having somebody from the IT team, just to give you that more of that, internal technical perspective. It can be especially helpful, if you've chosen a CRM solution and you're having it installed on your own servers on premise. It can also be very helpful if you're going to be doing any integrations to any of your back-end systems. So typically somebody on IT that's going to have a level of understanding and knowledge as to how those back-end systems, currently function and the capabilities of those solutions. So.
All right, awesome. Next up, how much training is typically needed for a successful launch? And is it done on-site or remotely?
Good question. So if it's feasible, we always recommend on-site training. Sometimes it's just not right. Some teams have people all over the country, all over the globe, and they can't feasibly get them into one spot at one time. So, webinar type training can be done, but we always find the on-site training is much more successful. You have everybody in a room. It's very interactive. The trainers up front, everybody else is on their stations, on their computers, following along, doing what they should do. And, I'm a sales guy, right? Some of you may be doing this right now, right? We're doing this online. You might also be checking emails. You may be answering phone calls. If you're doing a webinar, it's harder to kind of control that. So definitely on-site is preferred. In terms of how much training, typically it really does depend on how much you're rolling out so in one phase. So we typically like to do a full day of training for the end users and the super users and the administrative. So it's separate days for each group, but a full day walking them through on how they're going to be utilizing the systems in their daily lives and how it's going to be helpful. And that's really kind of right before go live. But we also find that, ongoing training can be helpful. So maybe, regrouping and doing another session a month or two in. We found that a lot of our clients really like to do internal lunch and learns as well. So just ongoing 30-minute sessions focused on certain aspects of the system to really, again, help drive home and give you that continued training, as you continue to move through and evolve into this new platform. So.
All right. Thanks for that, Mike. Next question, why do you recommend phasing the implementation?
Sure. And again, this, not everybody has to do this, right? But if it is a large implementation, right, you're really overhauling a lot of your processes, a lot of the things that you want to do. Phasing it out can be a very good thing for multiple reasons. One, financial cost, right? If you're only knocking it out in phases, then the cost will be broken down. Timing, you can deliver it in smaller spurts so it can get out there faster and get the people on the system. Other things as well, tech organizational disruption. If you're launching all this at once, it can really lead to a lot of change, and it can make it tougher on everyone. Technical absorption, how much change on the technology side can you observe at one time? Just change management, needs prioritization, making sure what is the most essential, what is the most vital, and those that knock those out first and break it down in phases. So understanding, this kind of goes back to the first live session, but understanding your needs versus your wants, right? Making sure that's what is most vital, most essential, and knocking that out first. And it's not like, you don't have to do the phases. All right, we're going to do phase 1 this year and phase 2 2 years from now. You can break it out, and, we're doing phase 1. We're going live July 1st. Phase 2, we're going to start the development right after that and be live, September 1st, right? So, it's not like you take a big break. You don't have to. You can, but you can continue to kind of roll it in. So, yeah, a bunch of different reasons, but, the cost, the timing, the resource availability, organizational disruption those are a lot of the big ones. So,
All right. I think we have time for one more question here. Since we've never done something like this before and have no idea what the potential costs might be, how do you go about establishing a budget?
Sure. It's another good question. So, to get a firm, number on, I should start, the actual software of these CRM solutions, you can typically find what their list price is, per license, online pretty easily. So that piece of it is pretty easy to find, right? It can all be found online. You can reach out to the vendor yourself, whether it's Salesforce, Sugar, Infor, Microsoft, whoever it might be. You can typically find the license cost, at least the list price, fairly easily. What's more difficult to understand and find is how much is it going to take to actually, implement the system. So the service side of it, right? And there's a bunch of different ways to go about that. One thing that we always kind of like to tell people is a rule of thumb. Is that, for every rep that you're doing it, or that's going to be launching on the system, you may want to plan for another $1,000 to $2,000 for them, for the upfront cost to implement it, to meet your business needs, right? That's one rule of thumb. Another rule of thumb is, typically about what your software is going to cost per year. So let's say if you're doing, you're buying $50,000 worth of CRM software, at least the rule of thumb is that you can expect that your implementation cost might be another $50,000, right around there. Now, again, that's just a rule of thumb. You don't really know for sure until we get in there and dive into the scope and work with you to understand exactly what you're trying to accomplish. Here's a list of your requirements and how we're going to meet those. And then from there, we can really scope it out and give you more of a firm estimate. But those are just really kind of a couple of the rules of thumb that you can, at least when you're starting to get this together and starting to first understand what this might take, those are some good options to at least base it off of until you have the time and resources available to work with an implementation partner such as us to iron out the different requirements and what's needed to get a firm price on that. So,
All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up with that. Thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you for the questions. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Mike if you have any further questions. And as always, this live session will be available on our YouTube channel immediately following this here. Mike,
thanks. Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, thank you very much, everybody, for your time. Alex, thanks for bringing me in and setting this up. A couple things I do want to point out real quick, you might see on the slide here. So, the 10 bullet points that I went through is very high level. We've actually written an online ebook around these 10 essential steps, which just kind of goes into each bullet point in a little bit more detail. You can see the link is right there. If you haven't already, feel free to go there and download that. I believe that link will also be in the transcript on the YouTube site after the fact as well. So feel free to go there, download the full ebook, reach out to me or anyone from our team if you have any questions. Other than that, we'll be continuing the CRM journey live sessions. We'll have another CRM one soon, but don't miss, we do these live sessions for all of our CRM practices and do them every second and fourth Thursday of the month. So if you have time, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to check out all the other really cool sessions we have coming up. So with that, thank you very much. Everyone have a great afternoon.